She said that American soccer fans, most of them aren't smart. They don't know the game. They don't understand.
Gio.
That guy gazpacho.
Bournemouth can take a lame gorilla, okay?
Advice, did you know that Arsenal died?
He's got me buzzing.
Up the toppies. It's hard to up them anyway.
I'm gonna comment on now. The faith is there. He's earned that. Boys, let's get into the U.S. men's national team corner. We have a lot to talk about with the U.S. team. We just finished our U.S. men's national team January camp cupcake, as some say. But overall, thoughts on this camp? I mean, usually on paper, we're a better side, and we don't really play that great against these other sides that also aren't that great, kind of B teams of random nations. This time we played awfully well, kind of showed the levels. Don't think there's that many players that maybe stood out, but Mike, were there some? How many do you think make it? I think maybe a Luna, Guti, Kramashi, Jack McGlynn, maybe. I mean, who even has a shout at making the real team? Who do you want to at least see in a camp for the real team?
Luna for sure is the one standout. Could definitely see being in a camp. Jack McGlynn showed some glimpses, so did Kramashi. And then
Crowded,
the one
though.
Forward, I can't. Yeah, it is crowded. The one forward, he scored a few goals. I don't know how to say
Patrick
his name.
Achiman.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
It's a tall task to break into the squad for anybody.
He's a tall man.
Scoring goals, that does show something. Potts will definitely remember that if our guys are in bad form or there's limited selection, you get your name in there. Yeah, injuries are real. We have so many injuries, especially in that striker pool. Much of those guys can't stay healthy. Luna for sure. The rest of the guys, though, they're definitely a ways off. Even McGlynn and Kramashi, who show glimpses, like Dick said, so competitive, and the dudes who are above them by a wide margin at the moment.
Yeah, a broken nose for Diego Luna. Pochettino says he has big balls. I mean, you'd think a senior national team camp has got to come up for somebody doing that.
I would say one thing I would say off of it, and again, I was not as locked into this camp, so I could be wrong. But one, I think you're right. Luna, I mean, look at our wings. Put Luna out there, give him a shot. At least on the bench, he can come in and change the game. Hopefully, I don't know. I don't see any reason why not. And it seems like Poch is a fan, like you said. I will say, like we talked about it going into camp, there were some more heavily capped guys in the center back position. Not, I don't think our backline ever became too threatened, so I don't really have too many judgments on either of those guys. Obviously, the competition wasn't amazing, but neither was our roster selection. I think one thing it does point to is maybe, in Poch's new system, this backline just gets threatened a little bit more. You know what I mean? I think with more possession base and recycling the ball and kind of the things you're trying to implement, maybe a weak spot, he can be able to kind of paper that over a little bit and cover up some holes, which is what good managers do. He doesn't have other center backs to pick from. I know Flags has a list of 17, 18-year-olds that can be the next center back of the future. But in reality, like those guys aren't ready.
Bookmark that thought.
Those guys aren't ready at the moment and are unlikely to be ready next year. So it's encouraging to me that even against weak competition, our defensive structure in general didn't seem too threatened. And again, I wasn't as locked in, 90 minutes watching the games, mostly highlights for me, but still, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you watched previous January camps, on paper, like I said, the U.S. were better against like the Serbian B team and like Colombian C team and all those teams that they were playing in January camps. They were better than those teams, but it wasn't necessarily showing up. It was maybe a 1-0 win, a draw. It looked like shit, and you're like, oh well, the players aren't that great. But now it does just look good, and you can see that there's people that are levels above others. But I think one of the issues we talked about was the U.S. is so much better on paper, and it's a shame that these games aren't played on paper. Now they're actually kind of playing them up to their talent level, and we're seeing that even in this January camp. I think that's very good to see. Now, obviously, like what you said, want to see these people with the real camp. boy, our real camp players are still showing up over there in Europe, going over to Milan, as always, going over to Milan. Christian Pulisic extended his 100% penalty record with another penalty in their game against Parma. He's 12 for 12 now. Musa then added in a crazy assist through the midfield into Tijani Reinders to tie it up before they eventually get a win, 2 goals in stoppage time for AC Milan to beat Parma. I mean, Milan, they're comeback kids. That's kind of what they do. They go down and then come roaring back with goals. Tyler Adams, 2 assists. The first assist was just Kluivert being insane, dribbling at 50 yards and then a shot from outside the box. But second one was pretty good. Gets 2 assists. Only American to have 3 assists in a 2-game window as a CDM. I mean, that's impressive no matter what those assists are. So he's doing all right.
What a stat, dude.
What a stat. 3 assists in 2 games. That's not too bad. That's not too bad.
That's pretty good.
With this being said, Musa obviously looking all right. Weston McKennie has been doing great for Juventus, albeit at every position on the field. Tyler Adams is doing amazing for Bournemouth, and Bournemouth themselves are doing amazing. Is that trio locked in? I know, we can mess around with MMA and if Musa's out wide right or anything else, but are those 3 locked, you think, in somewhere in that mix of the midfield?
When they've been available, they've always been locked for me. I think the best games we've seen with this team have been when those guys are all together. They complement each other well. They play to each other's strengths. Yes, we don't get to play with a true 10 when we play those 3 together, but they provide so much lockdown. They kill in transition. I think when we play bigger teams, it has to be those guys.
Yeah. I wonder if you can make some room for a 10 and put Musa in that wide mid role because he already just slots in so much. But man, these 3 are just, if you're talking about any midfielder trying to crack into this team right now, it's going to be pretty fucking tough with these guys all being healthy and in form. Speaking of cracking into the team, going to a spot that is not necessarily the healthiest or not the most informed is center back. Luckily, as Nick said, I know all the young center back prospects coming up, and this one is, for a long time, been the number one. Nokai Banks at Ausburg got the start. He had a few sub appearances in the last 3 games, gets the start here due to some injuries on suspensions, gets the start and gets man of the match, and he is looking very good for Ausburg. One of their defenders is now being loaned out, so potentially a sign of confidence in continuing to play him even more, but insanely talented on the ball, dribbles it into the opposition half a lot, is no issue with keeping the ball on his feet and making the passes, distributing out of the back. So it'll be nice to see not a Cameron Carter-Vickers type getting a little nervous on the ball. But certainly one to watch. One fun fact, also extremely depressing fact, Nokai Banks now has more minutes in the Bundesliga than one certain Giovanni Reina. So
wow,
not looking great for Gio Reyna, but looking awfully great for Nokai Banks. Also over there in Spain right now, Cavan Sullivan in MLS preseason got the start for Philadelphia Union in a 1-0 win against Danish side. Starts for Philadelphia Union and comes out with a quote saying his goal for the year is to make the 2026 World Cup roster. What does he have to do? What does he have to? Big ball. Hey, Pochettino loves big balls.
Same haircut, pretty much.
What would you have to see from Cavan Sullivan for him to get into this current roster? We're talking about Diego Luna, Malc Tillman, Gio Reyna. A lot of 10s. Might be in as a winger, I guess you could put him in as, but what does he have to do to actually be in that legitimate conversation for you, Nick?
What does he have to do? I don't know. number one thing, he has to show he's physically mature enough to be able to compete against the big boys, which, based off this start, hopefully he gets that chance and is able to at least play against men. Because, at this point, he's played against children his entire career. How can you say World Cup's your...
Well,
he
did play against...
He's playing against boys.
He was in the second division last season, so he was playing against...
Yeah, but, second division MLS is
different. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
So, that's an interesting one. Obviously, we have some MLS players on the current, projected roster, I would say, but you'd have to prove a lot. I guess my question is, does he do? Because even if he comes on the roster, I can't envision a single scenario. I really can't, and that's he could. I guess if he leads the league in scoring, maybe, but even then, I don't think he'd start. So the real question is, do you bring in the young kid who, if he shows all this promise and really does seem to be the future of the men's national team, do you bring him for the experience and just let him hold the bench and give him 5 minutes at the end of a win in the group stage? Like, is that what you do? I could somewhat envision that, but he's got his first preseason start for an MLS team. To say that you want to be on the 2026 World Cup roster is quite the statement, which I like, by the way. I think it shows great mentality. Yeah,
have that.
It's, to be, what is he, 15, be saying shit like that? That's, think about a 15-year-old saying that. That's insane. So good for him. And if he does, I'm obviously going to buy into the hype. So all the power to him. Do I think it's going to happen? 0.01% is where I'm at. Even if he does prove to be, really good and have 10 goal contributions in MLS, he still doesn't deserve it over other guys, in my opinion. So we will see, but that would be very good news for this podcast. I'll tell you that much.
Very good news. We had that level of a wonder boy going to a World Cup. I think, honestly, he is insanely good. And the conversation a year ago is he going to be good enough to make the U20 World Cup roster? I think he's maybe a little bit past that now, where he is kind of talking about if he is breaking through with Philadelphia Union. Is it more of a senior camp thing? But I think, there has to be some injuries if he's getting in, because I don't think that if fully fit Gio Reyna, Malik Tillman are in there, that's 2 10s. How many 10s are you bringing?
You play him on the wing. That's the only way.
Yeah.
Does he get in if those two are hurt?
If those two are hurt, shit, that
opens
the conversation.
No, you don't. Stop it.
It opens the conversation. If listen, this is all extremely hypothetical. He plays a lot in MLS and does very well. But if he does play in the MLS and does very well, then you'd be like, okay, he can play. And holy shit, the marketing that Fox would love to have for their World Cup, having
he's a high school sophomore
All-American. Yeah, I know, it's crazy to think about.
Well,
but
you would have to do the LAMINE YAMAL, man. Like, that's what he would have to do to make the squad. He'd have to break out.
He'd have to do LAMINE YAMAL.
Yeah. LAMINE, he literally did that, though. He broke it at Barcelona and then made the Spain squad and was their best player in a matter of a year. That was insane. But he was a year older than Cavan Sullivan will be. That makes a little bit of a difference. At this age, a whole year is massive. I would completely rule it out. I would say it's really, really low odds. He just doesn't have enough time. Even if he is the best player at his age group by the time he reaches 16 or whatever, it won't be enough, because it won't be enough time.
Yeah. He'll be 16. I think you more so look at he'll be 20 at the 2030 World Cup, and then you'll have an older Pulisic.
And hopefully at 20, he's a shoo-in. Hopefully he is the best player at that point.
Yeah, insane player. The odds of it, awfully low, but fuck, I love that confidence to just say, yeah, that's my goal. Because that's crazy to say as a 15-year-old.
If we get an expanded roster,
the World Cup.
Maybe, man. Maybe.
I don't know. Listen, we will certainly see if he breaks out this MLS season. Certainly a lot of hype around him. I don't want them to just throw him in there and Freddie Adu him, put too much on him and ruin his talent. So I think they're probably thinking a little bit more long term here. Boys, so final thoughts here. Closing out US Men's National Team corner and going into the weekend of a Leicester-Everton big matchup and Manchester City-Arsenal big matchup. Mike, you first.
Pumped. It's going to be a good week. I think we should get the result coming off some success here, but still need to make some signings. Need at least 2 signings this window. It's going to be really hard to compete otherwise. Shout out the boys. Nick?
1-0 to the Arsenal. You heard it here first. Back in the title race. Let's go, baby. Up the Gunners.
Let's go up the Gunners, up the Toffees. Big weekend ahead for the boys. Big weekend it was this time. Let's double it up. Double or nothing. Hopefully not nothing. But until next time, peace.
Peace, y'all.
Double. Just double. Peace.
Mean your mom. Cavan Sullivan.
Cavan Sullivan, bro.
Just keep saying those 2 names.
What about Quinn Sullivan? Quinn Sullivan can be aggressive. That guy's a dog.
Yeah. He scored. He was the one that scored in their preseason game.
No shit.
Just saying.